Disease detectives.
There are many diseases we know about and understand the causes of. However, sometimes there are outbreaks of a disease which are unexpected or in new places, and nobody understands why so many people are getting sick. In these situations, we need the help of researchers who work like detectives to try to figure out the causes. Today, I'm going to talk about two situations, one in Senegal in West Africa and the other in Guam, an island in the Pacific Ocean. In both cases, the researchers needed to carry out in-depth investigations to find out the causes of these epidemics. The first situation concerns a disease called schistosomiasis. Schistosomiasis is caused by a parasite that lives in snails. If people go into a river where the snails live, the parasite can get transmitted by the water from the snail to the people's skin, where it begins to grow, and the people become quite sick. Although it doesn't usually kill people, it can make them very sick for a long time. Schistosomiasis is one of the most serious parasitic diseases in the world, yet it was unknown in Senegal before 1986. In 1986, a dam, the Diama Dam, was built on the Senegal River, and soon afterwards, people started to become ill. After a lot of detective work, they traced the problem back to the dam. It's important to remember that there had been no cases of the disease before the dam was built, and yet by 1988, the vast majority of the population, 90% in fact, had come down with the disease. Finding a solution to this health crisis became critical. Researchers looked at many clues, including the increase in snails in the Senegal River. This is what they determined. Before the dam was built, there were a lot of prawns in the Senegal River. The prawns ate the snails, and there was no disease. The dam caused the water in the river to flow differently. This changed the prawns' habitat, and the prawns became extinct. When all the prawns died off, there was nothing to eat the snails. The snail population increased rapidly in the river. This, in turn, led to more parasites in the river water, and suddenly many people were very ill. The next challenge was to find a solution. The medicine they have treats the disease. It doesn't prevent it. As soon as people recover from the disease, they get sick again. It may seem like a good solution would be to eliminate the disease by killing the snails. However, they decided that a better long-term approach was to try to restore the environmental conditions of the river so that prawns would be able to survive there again. Their reasoning was that once prawns lived in the river again, the prawns would eat the snails, and there would be no more disease. A project called Project Crevette is working to do this. This approach to solving a health problem is significant because it addresses the root cause of the disease rather than simply giving people medicine to treat the disease. Another mysterious disease which required a certain amount of detective work was in Guam, where the Chamorro people had a disease called Lytico-Bodig. That's Lytico-Bodig. The disease began early in the 20th century, reached its peak around 1940, and then died out. Researchers wanted to determine what caused the disease to appear and then disappear. The fact that the outbreak had already passed gave researchers evidence to investigate in terms of the conditions before and after the epidemic. Here is a summary of their research evidence. The Chamorro people used a seed to grind into a flour to cook with. The seed contains a toxin, which researchers speculated was causing the disease. This seemed like a valid explanation, except for two factors. One, before the seeds were made into flour, they were washed to remove the toxin. And two, men and women ate roughly the same amount of the flour. Both men and women had the disease, yet a lot more men had it. The researchers had to dig further. They studied the diet of men and women more carefully. They discovered that men ate more of one kind of animal, flying fox. This led researchers to an interesting discovery. The same seeds the Chamorro people used to cook with were also a basic part of the flying fox's diet. They also found that the seed toxin became highly concentrated in the meat of the flying foxes. This high concentration of the toxin was significant. Since men ate more flying foxes than women did, this helped to explain why more men had the disease. Researchers also learned that when the population of flying foxes began to decline due to overhunting, the incidence of the disease also started to decrease. When the flying foxes became endangered, no one could eat them regularly. The result was that the disease disappeared completely and the people's health was restored. These are just two examples of the various factors that need to be taken into account when investigating an unusual incidence of a disease. These are interesting examples because they demonstrate that researching diseases can be challenging but very satisfying.